And here I'd just like to say a line which is important, that a lot of Jigsaw comes from my lifelong strive for just trying to achieve efficiency across human practices and also across companies. And that's what I saw, that okay, I could do that first with lending companies. So towards the middle of 2020, we signed a POC with a couple of small NBFCs, lenders in India. We thought, okay, let's try to build modern, sort of all-inclusive core software for them, where they can onboard customers, underwrite, manage all their loans and everything in a one-stop modern sort of plug-and-play solution. Rather than what was happening in the industry, which is, it's that whole vendor-based methodology, philosophy, where it's you put an RFP out and then 10 people will come and put a bid in, and then it's going to take like 6 months of meetings and integration, and it's only after that you want to go live and pay an astronomical cost for that as well. So I was like, okay, we're living in a world where this happens, and then we're also living in a world where I can go on to G Suite and I can create like 200 logins for my company and manage my URL without ever having to call Google. Yes, so I was like, okay, there's definitely a disparity in the kind of software that's being made in these two parallel worlds that we're living in. So that's when the first bit of Jigsaw came out. We tried to build a small POC. And let me tell you very honestly that I like to say that we failed, and that was the first failure we had as well. Because I and our team had a very strong sort of appreciation of the experience of the product, that it's got to be self-serve. Like, our motto is that our products should be activated, configured, and customized by a non-technical user. That's what everyone across our teams accustomed to doing. And secondly, that it should be as much as a one-size-fits-all software for companies of various sizes. And we realized that, okay, this is not something that's easy in lending, because in lending, at the end of the day, even smaller companies have really customized requirements and have really customized sort of workflows. So you ultimately become a services company rather than a sort of product company. And I was like, okay, this is not what we're going for at Jigsaw. Our core values and principles with regards to building software are more important than sort of getting a couple of bucks here on this. So then we sort of pulled out of that, and we took a bird's eye view as to, okay, how do we still make companies more efficient with these principles we have regarding sort of building software and marketing software. And then we're like, okay, let's try to solve a smaller use case. Let's not try to do everything in lending. Let's try to solve a smaller problem and then sort of go from there to sort of potentially a larger problem. And then I tried to draw on my experience, spoke to, again, I'm very active to speak to potential customers, even sort of informal chats. I just make it a point to, just tell me more about your daily life, just tell me more about your daily processes. And one thing that stood out to me is MIS and reporting, and how that process in financial services organizations, to start with, was still very manual, was still very Excel based, and more importantly, was still very periodic Excel based. Yeah. It's the same things that are happening daily, where it's just sort of raw data that's changing. And then suddenly I drop on my experience. I've got ICICI Bank with about 80,000 employees, and I've got this small fintech startup that I work for with 40 employees. And one common parallel was that reporting to management was still happening on periodic Excels. And I was like, okay, so there has to be a way to do this simpler and to sort of solve this problem. And that's what we tried to tackle first. So I, got my hands dirty, built a little Figma prototype, and just went out to all of these people like, hey, if we get something like, if we give you something like this, would you be interested? And pretty much unanimously the response was, yeah, sign up for a POC tomorrow. So I had to tell people, okay, calm down. This is just a Figma file. I need to get a team to build this and give it to you. But yeah, so there was a lot of good response for the use case. And just one small point to end this very elaborate answer is where we stand today. Is we suddenly, as we were speaking to all of these lending companies and showing our prototype and wireframes, it hit us that there is a use case for this even outside of lending. There is a use case for this outside of financial services. And then is where sort of Jigsaw today and our product and our positioning and our vision today all fell in place. Because we're like, okay, this is not for a kind of company in a particular industry, but this is more for a size of company in terms of if you're an SME or if you've got access to certain tools rather than the others than what larger companies have. So yeah, so that's a very, very long-winded answer of who I am and how that plays into Jigsaw. And yeah, as of now, we've made great progress on building our prototype, signing up a few customers, and yeah, we're today just we've got a bright future ahead of us, hopefully.
So the ICICI would have been like this complete corporate. Everyone's in a blazer and a tie. Was the small scale fintech also a little blazer and a tie, or did you just get there and got like a culture shock of what just happened to my life?
I mean, very honestly, that was a culture shock. For the first month, I did turn up in well, not a tie at least, but I did like put a shirt on and things. And then the founder comes to me one day, like, if you why don't you just put a t-shirt on? Like, is there you just gotta fit in a bit more. But yeah, like I think for me, one of the things that I pride myself on is different perspectives. So having lived in different countries and work with different types of companies, and I think that's one of the things that I try to inculcate within Jigsaw as well, because we've got to sort of take the best out of everything we get. But yes, that was a bit of a culture shock having a beanbag in an office. But yeah, that was a fantastic experience, and I'd do it again.
So, do we have a co-founder for Jigsaw, or are you? Do you have like a tech co-founder, or is like one person hitting everything?
So that is the elephant in the room, that I am a solo founder and a non-technical founder. So that's always the elephant in the room when I'm speaking to, let's say anyone I'm pitching business to. But what we do have is we've got an excellent team we've got a great product head who's ex-Mu Sigma, ex-Manipal, who's got great experience in building large enterprise products. We've got, as I like to call him, a rock star full stack engineer, a sort of 5-year experienced, ambitious boy who's got everything sort of covered on, from a technology perspective. And more importantly, we've got a couple of advisors who are, sort of senior. So we've got one who's an ex-Goldman Sachs CTO, who's also currently the CTO of a Series B fintech in Singapore. So so what I've done is sort of try to surround myself with brains that know more than I do in this particular field. But yes, that's what we've got on this sort of our technical team comprises of that.
All right, because why I ask this question, I almost ask this to every founder who has a co-founder. The first you convince yourself that you want to make this company, then you convince the co-founder, then you convince the investor, and the internet didn't go, and then you convince the customer. All right, so how long has Jigsaw been going on, and are you remote? Are you in office? What's like the dynamic of the company?
So Jigsaw, as I said, our team always talks about Jigsaw 1, Jigsaw 2, like when we were working on building lending software versus when we were working on doing analytics now. So in our current phase, we've been active since March of this year. So that's when we started sort of building this initial team and getting a few initial devs to start building the prototype, the version we are. So yes, we've been in this from March of this year. With regards to our office, so we are remote right now. We've only got a team of a couple of people who sort of come in here and there when they are in Bombay. But especially our engineer, he's a fan of sort of traveling around the country, so he's in rather nice places all the time. But me personally, I work out of an office. Going forward, we are looking at adopting a hybrid workplace. So we are looking at, and when I say hybrid, not in terms of people being mandated to come in on set number of days, but rather on a need-based thing. So where if you've got something to do, come in, and we want our office to be more of a lounge and more of a sort of co-working space rather than a traditional sort of place with cubicles and names written on them. And yeah, so as of now, remote, but going forward, hybrid is what we're looking at.
All right, which the hybrid part brings me back to Govind. Is that where you've met Govind, or did you like go through a connection? And yeah, Govind, you can.
I think Govind and I mean, yes, the hybrid part is where I met Govind. I think Govind and I are quite a success story for WeWork. I think we could go in some of their marketing material for, we met at WeWork, we didn't know each other before that, and then we really hit it off. He's, I think his perspective on building businesses is very similar to mine. And I think we've known each other for over a year now, and we pretty much work out of the same office every day. So yeah, I'm actually, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing to say that my investor, I see him every day in office, but yeah, so that's where we met. And
you could have an investor call at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, that's how I know him from.
Govind, that's what you do, right? That's why you're sitting right there at B-Word.
No, so I'll turn this into a question for Abhishek. So I work with multiple founders, right? So Abhishek is quite young, I think late 20s or just 30. So in the 1 year I've seen him, I've never seen ups and downs. It's like going on consistently. So there are some founders who I feel if they hit it, they'll hit it off big. With him, I feel it's a question of time. How does that approach work? I mean, are you not worried Zoho may do something similar, or are you not worried you need to grow faster? I mean, how is your founder mindset? Because I've never seen him frazzled, but I've never seen him not working also. So it's always been the same tempo somehow. Yeah.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's a question or a but yeah, let me take that away. So I'll tell you very honestly, for us at Jigsaw, it's about getting the first 5 customers right. So for me, it's about getting the first 5 right, and then we know that we're going to scale to 5,000 in 3 years. So for us, it's about, I am a big cricket fan. I like to use cricketing analogies, but you got to get a size of the wicket first, and then then you've got to hit every ball out of the park. So that's sort of the methodology that I'm trying to apply to Jigsaw as well. So within the last sort of 9 months, we've made phenomenal progress on building the product, getting customers who are excited for it, and now we're only a few weeks away from delivering it to our first customer. And what we're doing in the meantime is I sort of ring fence customers into your POC inner circle, and then sort of guys who may not, which I personally would not want to do a POC with, but would be after we've got our hands dirty. So we're actually in a stage now where we've got so much interest for this little POC that we're wanting, that we were doing now. We're actually able to push people to the second ring, and so invariably what we're doing is that when we go live with this POC, we're already going to have customers, full paying customers as well ready by then. So to answer that question, it's about not like, I'm a firm believer of getting it right in terms of what we want to do and what people want from us. And then after that, once you know what you're doing, the speed is something which I think that's when going to probably see me a bit more frazzled. But yeah, that's our methodology here. Until now, it's been working very well. So yeah, let's hope that continues.
And Abhishek, see, I have seen the product once. For Shruti and all, it's difficult to picture it, right? So can you just give a case on how Pine Labs would use it, or how can you just somehow draw a rough picture for the product for us so everyone?
Absolutely. So I think I'm going to use the Pine Labs example. So I think one of the things with our product is it's best understood when you can picture it in your own life. So let's just take a use case of Pine Labs. So firstly, before I start, let me say that let's say someone like Shruti would be well versed with business intelligence tools, Tableau, Power BI. I'm sure someone at Pine Labs would be using softwares of that size. So we are sort of a baby business intelligence tool in a way, but the only difference being we're focusing more on the process rather than the output. Okay, so the process of how you're sort of deriving business intelligence rather than giving you business intelligence. So that, once I put that bucket on, then someone like Shruti probably be able to associate with the product a bit better. Now, just to give an idea of what our product is, well, more than that, I like to call it a platform in terms of this is the first version of it. What it effectively does in 3 stages is it connects to various data sources that a company may have. So, if you take a Pine Labs example, you probably have your sort of payment gateways in terms of where your transactions are getting monitored. You probably have bank accounts where sort of your transactions are coming in. And let's say you probably have a Google Analytics account for your website, which is giving you the number of users and the traction on your website or an app that's being used by Pine Labs. Now, what Jigsaw does is aggregates all of these. You connect them onto Jigsaw. We focus specifically on the integration methodology, wherein making integration painless and making it very sort of plug and play rather than having to build out too many APIs and things like that. So step 1, you connect all your data sources onto it. Step 2 is customize. So what you do in step 2 is you effectively make custom models using Excel, spreadsheets, or any sort of, now you take all of this and let's say your senior management at Pine Labs wants to know the average transaction size per per visit on the website, or something like that. So they just maybe create that model onto an Excel sheet and or onto a Google Sheet or any other spreadsheet tools that you use in the future if you're also providing sort of SQL support, and putting that again onto Jigsaw and putting that onto the platform. And then step 3 being automated. So now this custom model of yours using this raw data, which is coming from these 3 systems that we said, is now going to be automated by Jigsaw, wherein it's automated into dashboards, that too personalized dashboards for every individual, but automated into dashboards, automated into triggers, into email files, creating custom Excel reports. So in a nutshell, what your custom data model or data report is put onto Jigsaw, like sort of hooked onto Jigsaw, and then it's automated for perpetuity, but yeah, automated for the foreseeable future on it. That's the sort of main core flow of it. Apart from that, we've got a lot of frills, where we've got a thematic chat-based thing. We've got a lot of inbuilt alerts based on this data and other things. But the core flow, as I said at the start, is sort of redefining the process of how you derive business intelligence and how you automate your data reports, and that's what we're focusing on now, and that's what the core flow of the current product is.
Got it. Two separate questions. First one, if a database is going through like a GUID split, which is if they are part of an A/B testing, how does that come into Jigsaw, and how does that get read through the dashboard? That's the first one. The second one, should there be a threshold below which if a number goes, I heard that you said about alerts, that's why I was curious. How does the alerting system work? So let's do the A/B testing question. I'm really curious about that, and maybe that'll answer the threshold.
Okay, so let me, for both of these questions, let me give you a bit of a generic take on how sort of the process of analytics works, right? So I like to call it a 3-step process of analytics. So the first step is simply connecting to a source and cleaning up that raw data. Like I think, as you as a product manager probably know that today, even in large companies like yours, databases aren't in the most, in the most sort of legible, like data is not stored in the most legible manner.
Yeah.
All of those things are very, self-explanatory, stage 1. Stage 2 now is creating custom models out of those. So custom use cases, custom applications out of those. So now, you said A/B testing. A/B testing is one of those applications that's created based on this raw data which your company has. So, or the second thing is simply just making a daily tracker for, sales or things like that on an Excel sheet. That's also an example of a use case or a model that you're doing. So stage 2 is personalization, customization, and making this data appear in the form that you want it to and in ways that you want to use it. So A/B testing again, could be something wherein you're having certain reports coming in a certain way, for a certain metric, and maybe another report coming on another metric, and both could be inputted onto Jigsaw with the necessary commentary saying that this is that and this is that, going into different dashboards, going into different graphs. All of those frills are sort of part of it. And obviously, the third step of analytics, as I said, is the visualization and the delivery of it. So that's where your dashboard comes in. That's where your emailers come in. That's where your sort of chat and all of those things come in. So for us, what the question that you asked with regards to A/B testing and where we're honestly focusing on and what we are disrupting in a way is stage 2, which is the customization and personalization side of analytics. So yes, triggers as well are another example of what goes in that sort of second stage. So I think that was the next question. I think
Yeah.
sort of answer that straight up as well. So when we say triggers and alerts, we're not creating some fancy system where you need to go modify your database and things like that. We're staying in stage 2. You defined a model. A model has certain metrics in it. Now those metrics go above or below a certain threshold. Great, we can we got in-app notifications, we've got emailers that are sent out to people who want, and all of those things. So that's how we're managing alerts in a very sort of simplified manner. But these are alerts that hook onto the model you create. So the model you create is what is key to how you get the best out of Jigsaw.
Got it. And it's not very user unfriendly, because like not every small team or not every company would have like a data science team to create those perfect models. So how are you solving for say an APM or maybe a low experienced person to finally figure out, I need this data, I have this tool, I don't know anything about data science, how do I figure this out?
Okay, brilliant. So if a company doesn't know anything about data science, they are our target customer. They are our ideal customer. So I think it's very important to understand who our sort of ideal customer is, and for us, our ideal customer is one that doesn't have a data science team but has a MIS team, which is very common in traditional. Well, I like to say financial services businesses, but that's the case across manufacturing. It's the case even in smaller e-commerce companies. We've got a lot of interest from like hospitals and older sort of healthcare providers and those kind of companies where they have that MIS team, where you have guys who live and breathe Excel and, well, now recently Google Sheets for the majority of their career, and that is where their comfort zone lies. So I think it's very important to understand that's our main target market, is customers who have a certain size of business. So, there are lending companies with a book of 4,000-5,000 crores who today are still purely Excel oriented or purely Google Sheets oriented or purely sort of manual reports. So those guys have the money to do it, but those guys just don't have the access to these tools or maybe the experience of having used such tools. So that's very important to understand. That bit is our customer. Now, to answer your question more directly with regards to what we're going to do in that regard. So because of that, a lot of the way our product is architected and why we spent the extra hours in getting our product right is that we like to say our product is married to Excel in a way. So married to Excel and Google Sheets in a way. So that's one thing that's key for us. And secondly, what's key for us is that our onboarding process, our sort of integration process. I don't like to use the word integration. I feel like it's become quite a, people are sort of scared of that today. In tech, because you think of this 6-month process, but our thing is we focus a lot on our onboarding. So as part of our onboarding, we're actually putting a lot of emphasis on going on our internal team being able to replicate a company's current reporting process and MIS process onto Jigsaw. So we're getting people who are like very good at sort of understanding what companies are doing today, gathering that sort of user requirement of what's being done today and then translating it onto Jigsaw. So that's why for us going forward, if I may say, like our focus is, rather than having more developers writing APIs in the backend for integration, is getting more sort of pseudo data scientists and pseudo sort of integration specialists who are going to help replicate that process onto Jigsaw. So that's one. And also I'd like to end this answer by saying that for us, the focus is not only on reducing integration times, but also reducing training times. So, you go to any SME or even a large companies for sure. Let's say you as a product manager at Pine Labs, I'm sure your LinkedIn inbox is flooded with number of SaaS companies being like, try this, try that. And you go to
it's not LinkedIn DM anymore. They figure out the email IDs and they directly send an email. It's not LinkedIn DMs anymore.
Rocket reach, yeah.
Exactly. So if you go to any sort of ops head, risk head, they're saying that today our problem is that there are so many new software there. My company, like my guys don't have the time and the bandwidth to be learning new things. So our focus is not only on reducing integration time, but also creating something that's self-serve and can be self-taught as well. So that's also one way we look to mitigate the problem that you stated in your answer of people not being well versed with data analytics and having a data science team.
All right. So, but what would be the kind of obstacles that you would face, apart from just convincing people that I am not one more software, but I am the one that you would want? Other than that, what would be the kind of obstacles that Jigsaw goes through every single day that it's like keeps you up every night? Like, how do I solve this?
So I think obstacles is like, so I am a first-time founder. I don't come from a family that's got a business background or sort of a building businesses background. And so for me, I think obstacles are two kinds. One's the operational obstacles of running a company, and one sort of the strategic obstacles of having a certain vision and trying to execute that. So let me actually focus on the latter. I think the former is something that's everyone I think working in startups would say that you have far less time and your to-do list is far too long, and hiring is tough and that is tough. But I don't want to get into being that. I think if you ask me, an obstacle that sort of maybe keeps me up at night is let me find a good way of saying this is basically, so for someone like me and Jigsaw and even our founding team, it's we've got a certain vision of how a business should operate at scale. So we've got certain core values and principles of how this business should operate when it's got 1,000 employees and 10,000 customers, and in terms of the culture, as people like to call it, in terms of your processes, in terms of your attitudes regarding your customers and things like that. And I think having that utopian vision of that, but also executing on the sort of short term in terms of getting getting off the ground in terms of being a hyper competitive space in India where time seems to be a currency more than anything else, is I think an obstacle which I think is a good problem to have, but is something that's something that I say a lot of this thing from. So let's say, for example, we've got a firm belief that we've got our onboarding process has got to be to scale. Our marginal cost of acquisition is the metric, probably the only metric I'd ever track in for my sales team, has got to be as close to zero as possible. But when you're getting your first 5, 10, 15 customers, you're gonna have to do handholding, you're gonna have to spoon feed, you're gonna have to babysit, and it's about finding a middle ground between those two things. So I think that's a good problem to have, because we've got a clear vision of where we want to be. But yeah, I'd say that's primarily a major that's possibly the biggest obstacle there is. But also, I wouldn't call it an obstacle per se. It's a good problem. So yeah, it's not too bad. Apart from that, there's obviously working remote, having a small team. All of those things also. You've got to sort of manage that, I guess, being a single founder as well. The operational side of it versus trying to get a certain level of output. And that's that. But overall, I think if I may say, the expense of being a bit cocky is that I till now we haven't really faced sort of road obstacles as yet, and until now whatever we faced, we sort of had answers to. So we're glad.
To every founder I've asked this question, they've never said they've had a problem or an obstacle, and that I think that comes from being that there's no obstacle, I'll get over it. And that's something that we really, really cherish with almost every founder that we get here. Okay, who would you be considering your closest competitor? I know Govind mentioned Zoho, but that's like different scale and a different kind of software. So who would Jigsaw be a competition of?
So Jigsaw being a competition of, we're actually trying to position ourselves in a very sort of sweet spot between two major competition buckets.
Mm-hmm.
So the one big competition bucket obviously is business intelligence tools. So I think BI is a very, very well-established industry that's got offerings across the sort of across industries for different kinds of industries. So BI, so in BI, obviously guys like Tableau, Power BI, all of these guys are there. Even sort of smaller BI tools. There are a lot of domestic BI tools that have come up in India as well. So BI obviously is one that's there as a big competitor. And then the second competitor is maybe not as well positioned and established, but it's your sort of just charting libraries, dashboarding tools, your sort of self-serve a couple of APIs that are available for you to come in and build a few charts and dashboards. If you Google a dashboard tool right now, you're going to find something like 300 results of different tools that do it. So I think that's another bucket of competition, sort of competitive tools as well. And what we're trying to do is honestly position ourselves between the two, wherein we're saying that we're giving you the nimble and low cost and agility of the latter, but at the same time the quality and the sort of just knowing you and having proper support and all of those things of the former. So that's where we look at positioning ourselves. And those are where our competitors are, and yeah, I think that's well put. But also one thing that I'm not going to deny is that most of the customers that we are aggressively looking at targeting are customers who've got a business intelligence tool on their wish list. So it's dealing with hey, I've got this tool on my wish list for such a long time. Who are you? You're just coming up and you don't know the space, and why should I not take that and take you? So I think yeah, that's the best way to put our competitive landscape out there.
Awesome. Govind, you had a question?
Sure. So Abhishek, from the way you're explaining it, basically it'll bring a lot of improvement to people's business processes, but it's not a startling need, right? So out of how many conversations and how many do you have to actually make them realize the need, or is it
people are generally looking out for it and it somehow clicks?
So I think I draw onto what I said in the previous question, where my customer is someone who's got a business intelligence tool on their wish list, but because of obviously cost and various factors, it's remained on the wish list and not got into something they buy.
So there have been very few conversations where they're like, boss, we don't need anything of this sort.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you where I've got customers being like, I don't need something of this sort. Where I went out to larger customers who are using Tableau and Power BI, which obviously come with its own much more elaborate feature set and much more elaborate sort of visualization and things like that. There is where initially I got a pushback being like, hey, what's the point if I've got something as elaborate and I'm spending, $750,000 every year on Tableau, then where is this adding value? And that's when we actually took a conscious decision as well, is that our customer is not a particular industry, but is a particular size. And very honestly, we stopped going to, everyone of that size. We stopped going to sort of, larger customers who had the budgets for Tableau and Clipfolio and Power BI and all of these tools, and stuck to people who are, having a manual process. So in terms of having a need, I've honestly not faced a problem where in our target customer. But yes, going forward, obviously, Govind, you know best that that's how you start in terms of the pyramid. We want to start from the smallest of customers and then ultimately, go to the go to larger ticket sizes. But yeah, the need is fairly clear.
Thanks.
Awesome. Another question: If you're not competing directly with those companies who are on the wish list of BIs, how would you say that you differentiate yourself? And I don't want like the longer, we do this, but like if you had just like an elevator pitch to give to someone who's on their way to buy BI software and they just happen to connect with your elevator, why would they change their decision from the other place to you?
So let me answer. Sorry.
How would you sort of differentiate yourself out from someone like that?
So let me answer that in two different ways. The elevator pitch, let me do that secondly. Firstly, maybe about how the positioning is different in one line. And I think we're very clear today that business intelligence tools are in the business of giving you business intelligence. We are in the business of streamlining your process of deriving business intelligence. So we are in the business of, hey, you're running this company, you've set up this company which has been going on for a while, and you know the metrics you want, you know what you want to track, how you want to track it. We're now making that pipeline of the data that's flowing and visualizing for you to track it. Where making that today, which is emails and spreadsheets and maybe a few Slack channels here and there. We're making that into like this hyperloop where the data is. So in one line, we're focusing on the process rather than giving you business intelligence. So I think that's important to know in terms of what we're doing today. Secondly, now, well, as an elevator pitch, I think I feel like I've been put on the spot there, but I think there's two main things to it, and I don't shy away from is the cost factor and how quick we can get you started. So I think it's about how easy we are to work with. And let's say even for my POCs, one of the things when I tell people when sort of the first meeting, second meeting where they're really impressed is that, hey guys, just to let you know, by the way, we're going to take a 45-minute meeting with your ops guys and then maybe a 90-minute training for when we go live, and that's all the time we want from you. We don't want like every week 2 hour sessions, a recurring Zoom invite. No, we're not. So we're here to give you not only a cost-effective and sort of useful product, but also something that's going to be bought without too much headache as well.
So do you keep getting questions back from companies? Like, I mean, these 2 sessions that I think when you go live, right? Beyond that, you're not going there and training folks. So does that mean that you keep getting questions from folks later on, or are they self-sufficient once they do this 45 plus 90 minutes and they're done?
So as we said, we're still pre-product. So I mean, we were still dealing with a lot of that. But let me tell you, what's the kind of feedback we get, and let me focus on the negative feedback that we get. So I think that will give you an honest perspective of this. So I think primarily when people say business intelligence tools, they expect you to give them that final answer. They expect you to give them, I use lending metaphors. They expect you to give them that magical ratio, which is going to make sure that they have no NPA and they have their cost of acquisition becomes zero, and their OPEX is just goes, their NIM increases, and that's what they're looking for. So I think telling a lot of people that hey, it's your intelligence which you're automating on this rather than we're giving you intelligence. So I think that's where I see a few eyes rolling. But that too is more from, so even in my customer, we like to sort of create personas even within a customer that we're targeting. So senior management always reacts in a certain way. Ops and sort of risk and reporting teams, those who normally react in a certain way. And then you have sales guys, business guys, I like to call them, who normally react in a certain way. So I think it's the response that I just stated is something we normally get from senior management or maybe the business teams being like, hey, where's that magic number, or where's that fancy graph? But from ops guys, from sort of functional people, it's like, okay, wow, this is it's just the feedback from their end is, of course, this is wow, we're reducing our process. But if I had to pick up a couple of negative points, it would probably be things like, okay, how customized can it be? How often can I change formats and things like that? So yes, that kind of understanding the product is something which people just normally take maybe a meeting or two to do.
Awesome. Another question. How does Jigsaw sort of see itself maybe in like 2-year, 5-year, 10-year sort of a manner? Because the kind of very narrow niche business that you're solving for, one day they're going to outgrow that size, which means that you'd be looking at the same characteristic company, but some other company. Because I mean, ultimately they're trying to grow. After a point, do you think Jigsaw stays with them forever, or does it now go back to the another set of new companies?
Okay, I'm glad you added the second part to it, because I thought you were going to ask where are you going to be in 5 years, and I was getting scared to answer that now. That's so open-ended. But yeah, so I think that's a very good point you've raised. And let me go back to what I said to Govind earlier about one of the ways we're not only structuring our sales strategy but also our product in the longer term is to go up the pyramid. So building today for smaller companies with not as complex requirements, and then going up to ultimately building for like Fortune 500 companies. So I think that's one way. That's a very direct answer to where we see a customer going with Jigsaw in the future. But what's now important and things that we focus on is stickiness. So we, and even at this very early stage, we speak to like our product team, for example, working on integrating, Google Analytics on like every button there is, on every screen there is, to get like an idea of what works, what doesn't work, how to get people, being on this screen for as long as possible. Because you've got to understand that when you're building B2C apps, it's sometimes maybe optional to be on that screen. But when you're building a B2B thing, you've got employees who have to, as a part of their job, look at that screen for an X number of hours a day. So I think it's how can we make that screen time to make their life simpler and things like that, but also in a way keep them a bit more hooked and keep them a bit more engaged and have a positive view on it. So yes, customer stickiness from a product perspective is something that we focus on quite a lot, and from this early stage as well. And then finally, to sort of end this answer would be that in a very sort of sales way to say it, like our longer term vision is to be a decision platform. Mm-hmm. Like we want to be a platform where companies are making decisions, like are using to make certain decisions on, and that's where and we want to be those people that give you all of the tools and sort of give you all of the necessary infrastructure to do that. And yeah, that's where we see ourselves being in the future.
Awesome. So that means that there'll be reinvention, and maybe and you've already pivoted once. We actually had questions on that. What stage, or at what instinct, or is it just a understanding that comes from being that, having that extra superpower of being a founder? When do you realize that it's better I pivot now versus let me keep trying and like wait till it hits rock bottom and then pivot? So I mean, I understand, and I always say this, there's always a superpower that comes by being a founder, where you have that foresight of when this is going to fail. How does a founder think that this is the right time to pivot? Because you've done that once with Jigsaw, and how do you sort of convince others involved, like other stakeholders involved, that this is now the right time. You can convince yourself very easily. You have that foresight and some factor of gut feeling. But how does that happen with the rest of the team?
So I think what's very what worked for us and will continue to work for us in good times and bad times is having a set of values that we adhere to in terms of what our product is, what our experience is, what we stand for, and what we want to do. So as I said earlier as well, we were for a brief amount of time actually working on lending software, only about 4 months. So at that time, even at that time and today, the core values were, okay, we've got to build self-serve software. We've got to build software that can be, bought, configured, customized by a non-technical user. We've got to build software that can be integrated simply. So self-serve was our number one ideal that we stuck to. And our number two ideal was that we want to build software at scale. We want to build, we're not wanting to get into solving a customer, like a specific company's problem, but helping multiple companies through a specific platform that we're building. So I think for us, having these two values and knowing that and maybe writing that on a piece of paper somewhere and just sticking that somewhere is, I think, what adds a lot of solidity to your decision making. So you got to know that, okay, this is where this is what you like. This is your sort of your Magna Carta that you got to stick by, and now whatever you build has got to reflect that. So even moving from lending honestly to analytics, apart from the time and apart from that was honestly not very difficult. We realized that lending software was not something that's possible to just go onto a website and put in your credentials, integrate, create your workspace and start. It's not possible to do that. That's that. And when you say building at scale, being the second pillar of ours, it's the size is much smaller. Let's say India, you have about 3,500 active NBFCs, and your banks who are far too large. That's you're not even trying to get into that game. Across Asia, in terms of mid to small size lenders, you have about probably around 20 to 25,000 if you include the Middle East region as well. And I think there would be, I think it's safe to say there's probably about 150 different products that are actively trying to cater to that. So I think it's very difficult to build at scale as well in that space. And yeah, so to answer your question very simply, it's about knowing your ideals and knowing your principles. That's something that I tried to do it in the short time that we've been running Jigsaw. I think that's something that's worked for us and going ahead as well. It's this is our playbook, and everything we do is got to revolve around this playbook.
Awesome. I'm literally getting screamed at that I've not taken audience questions, and we're almost at the top of the hour. So Shreya, if you have that question that is on the chat right now, would you like to say it out loud?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Hi, Abhishek.
Hi, Shreya.
Lovely hearing you talk. I have deep interest in this product, Jigsaw. I had a few questions I want to understand. Right now, how are you prioritizing going wide or deep? By this, I mean the analytics window right now. Do you have predefined KPIs and metrics that when you're talking to customers, you're saying this is the viewpoint that we'll give to your business? Or have you kept it completely open-ended? Because that's very challenging. Everyone will have different kinds of data points that they'd want to see. So how are you handling that right now?
So as of now, how we're very directly handling that is, set a tricky question as well a little while ago, is we're clear that our focus is on making your process more efficient. So we're clear on how you go from data to dashboard. That's the process which we're today here to make simple and simplify and things like that. Now, in terms of getting pre-built KPIs and things, so as I was saying earlier, like we're focusing on onboarding and focusing on sort of how customers go live. That's the main part of our product that we focus on. And as part of that, we've got a bit of data science capability in-house. So we are building a few sort of reports that we can give out, and a few sort of pre-built KPIs that are there for certain industry. But we're clear that today our focus is on automating your intelligence rather than giving you intelligence. And another point that I'd like to add there as to how we are able to give this pre-built intelligence, as I was saying, based on our capability in-house, is we're strategically starting from, well, we are we were not limited by industry, but we are starting from certain industries that we understand best. So we've got a lot of interest from lending very naturally because of my background. We've got a lot of interest from e-commerce and healthcare. So let's say these three are industries that we want to sort of start focusing on, and here we can sort of build more capability. But what is going to be the key for us going forward is that, as I said, 3 stages of analytics and then middle stage of making custom models. We have, using our sort of, proprietary platform and our tech and how we're doing that, we've simplified that middle layer quite a lot. So tomorrow, building KPIs even for us to give out to customers is much simpler than it is for a standard BI tool or a standard BI company. So yes, for us today, it's a mix of being clear that we're automating the process, but also giving some preset pre-built analytics.
Should I ask another question?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So then, from that point of view, we are also then at Jigsaw right now, not doing role-wise or tier-wise analytics. For example, what I have seen a lot of my customers ask is CEO wants to look at something else, whereas finance team is looking at something else, sales operations is looking at something else. So there is no, right now, you think the best way right now is not to do tier-wise or role-wise analytics?
Yeah, so for us right now, when you say role-wise, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of our sort of messaging pillars is that we make your reports a workspace for your entire company. So it's like and if you go to our website as well, we put out how we help senior management, and we help like analysts and ops guys who are preparing this data for senior management as well. So for us today, we are agnostic in terms of what role you play on this whole cycle of raw data to dashboard to decision, and that's what it will remain. And also one more thing on the role side, obviously, people think of sales, you're helping sales, you're helping HR, you're helping marketing. That as well, obviously, as I'm saying, you're automating your intelligence, so we're not limited to a particular functional role as well, and neither are we limited to a particular size or hierarchical role as well.
Got it. Yeah. Just an insight, Abhishek, there's a lot of gap in the FMCG CPG industry as well. I work extensively with MISs. The problem is that there's a lot of customer, in terms of secondary, tertiary sale, a lot of lower brands who cannot afford Tableau or BI tools come to us also. So I think maybe that would also be relevant for you later down the road.
So Shreya, I'm going to use this moment to do a shameless plug-in. As of next week, we're actually starting. The week after, we're actually starting we call it an early adopters program. So which is sort of like a waitlist campaign where customers can come and formally sign up to get priority access to the platform when it's ready. So if anyone's listening to this and is interested to simply check it out, you can just give me a call anytime. But yeah, like we're more than glad to get as many people to come on and be a part of that campaign. And I'm saying very bluntly, it's not in a case of like making a sale, but today we want to test what we're doing in as many industries and as many types of companies and in as many domains, and so yeah, so through that campaign of us, just stay hooked on to our website and our socials, and if you've got any companies that are looking at this time, we're more than glad to help them out and tell them a bit more about us.
Sure, I'll definitely plug in this to my brands as well and my companies as well who are looking for this solution.
Thank you, Shreya. That would be great.
We are all about shameless plugins. We literally do that all the time.
I'm glad.
I'll do the one more thing. I'll add you to the Founders Club that we have. It's like an exclusive club of about 60 founders who are just starting up. It's like a closed group, but I'm sure all of them would need something like this for the business, or like a good place for you to talk to them as well. Okay, I'm opening the floor for others. If someone has a question, they can unmute. I didn't realize we were almost above the time. I was just getting questions. I have one standard question that Divakar always asks. How are you keeping your personal and your official lives separate while working from home, while working in a pandemic, but like focusing on 2 different things? How are you keeping yourself? In his terms, his question is how does the founder keep themselves sane?
I think I have a couple of friends listening to this, so whatever I say may be a bit. They may not agree that I have a balance of any kind. But well, to be honest, I haven't really. I I'm going to use a very controversial answer here. I come from a investment banking background. I come from a work culture where you're working 6 days a week. You've got long hours. That's one thing. Secondly, our team is we've got a very output oriented culture. So it's like you've got a certain thing to do. You do it, and if you don't have something to do, just you can sleep in. That's fine. So we've got a very output-oriented culture. But for me personally, well, I've got the bits and pieces outside of this, and that's mainly like cricket and football, and yeah, I think for me it's just being a bit updated on those kind of things are a good release. But yeah, very honestly, I do spend majority of my sort of waking hours on this, and it's not something I find difficult to be not tired or zoned in. But yeah, I'm not going to deny that after this call, I'm going to check the cricket score and probably be watching that for a couple of hours. But yeah, I guess that's how I keep myself sane.
I think you've just gotten used to always being in a place where there are long hours happening.
Yeah, that is true. I guess that's what it helps. Just have the cricket on. So you know that you're not going to change screens if I need to.
It's a big paradox that banks get closed at 5, but banking does not.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception. They think that banks will close at 5, but they didn't pass that message on to an investment banking team or a corporate finance team. I think that's or even PE for that matter. I think that's where that misconception comes from. But yeah, I'm to be very honest. However put on this is going to sound, I enjoy what I'm doing, and well, I haven't reached that stage yet. Maybe if we speak a few months down the line, I may reach that stage where I'm or as Govind said, I'm looking frazzled, but.
No, I said you never look frazzled. I said you never look frazzled.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you never know, like few months down the line.
Correct.
But yeah, as of now, enjoy what I'm doing. Yeah.
Awesome. Are you looking to expand the team? How big is the team right now? How can we help? Shameless plug-in.
So yeah, absolutely. I think for me, this what we're doing today is the first sort of public sort of expose or whatever that we're doing on this company or any sort of event or anything that we're doing, and well, one of it came down to creators of products and sort of this community being very engaging, and for us also strategically being at that stage where we now want to expand our team. So we spent the last few months getting a clear idea of what we want to do, getting a clear idea of what we want from people that we hire. And now I'm actually glad to put it on here that we are expanding our founding team actually as a whole. So we've got open roles in design, in engineering, in products. So these are the 3 verticals that we're opening up now. As of tomorrow, we'll put out a few more jobs as well. So hoping to get some traction through this so people can actually make more impact through that. And yeah, so today we're working on getting our functional team even stronger. And then maybe 2 months down the line, we'd hire more sort of marketing and sales and sort of more non-functional teams then. But yes, we've got open roles here. We've got 2 clear methodologies over here, like with regards to people. We want people that are driven to make an impact. For us, it's and I like to call it an impact-driven business. And for us, it's about people who are driven to create impact. Those people need to come in here. And secondly, it's another sort of methodology we've got is that everyone's an owner. So for us, even at the junior most levels, people come in, they would have share back sort of ESOPs and things like that, because for us, I'm a big believer in, everyone's going to grow at the same time we do. So if anyone's listening to this, and also, yeah, so let me say that we're not only limiting ourselves to hiring either very experienced people or very young people. We believe that we want a team that's got a few experienced generals and captains, and then some fiery young blood to go with it. So even if you're a fresher, just year or 2 experience in design, product, engineering, feel free to reach out to me. Even if you've got 5, 6, 7 years experience and you think that you feel a bit out of touch with this whole startup community today, but you still want to make a foray in, get in touch with me, and yeah, we can definitely try to work something out. So for us, it's about getting the best brains onto this. So please reach out, spread the word, and glad to add the team Jigsaw.
A founder who speaks of ESOPs is our favorite founder ever. And that's something that we've established really, really well. So sure, if you have your JDs or if there's a link that we can put on the Slack community, we'll do that. we've already distributed your Twitter handle and your LinkedIn, so they can get in touch with you there as well. But if you'd like, if there is a specific link that you'd want us to put for the page or for an email that you get all of these on, we'll do that. If folks don't have any more questions, I think we're really over time and we can stop if that's all right. If you have any questions for us, Abhishek, please do ask us. We're more than happy to help you out. We are buzzing with people who now, when they hear that you are up for a lot of product and engineering design roles and also up for ESOPs, are going to just clamor us. So if you have any questions for us, we'll be happy to answer. Otherwise, just
I mean, to be very honest, I would love to know a lot more about creators and products, and I am going to actually bother you offline, and I'd love to have a chat with you as well. And I think, and as I said at the start, like today where we are, there is going to be the demand for workforce to come into these sort of companies is going to increase through the next couple of years. And communities like yours are what are important to really increase that denominator. And I think that's the number of sort of freshers or even college students who get in touch with me and they're just interested in this in sort of startups because of communities like yours. And it almost becomes sort of their, an alternate certification of sorts, or a godfather of sorts to like a lot of people, inspiration to get into things. So I really think I'm very big on these sort of communities, and I'd love to know a lot about that. But yeah, I think in the interest of time, let's maybe do that.
We do get a lot of 16, 17-year-olds asking us to, I've made this company. They've already made a company. I've made this company. What do I do now? So we're always inspired by these folks. Like at 15, 16, my biggest bother was that how do I pass 12th with flying colors? They have companies built up.
That is very true. That is very true. Yes. I think that's a great thing. The workforce has to get bigger. Skills have to be more relevant, and that's the two things. These kind of communities are doing. So I'm very, very happy about this.
Thank you. Okay, then. Thanks a lot for joining us today. This was a great conversation. We look forward to getting whatever blog page, career blog page you have. We'll put that up. We'll get more and more people to interview with you. We'll be very happy if you wanted to ever get your POC tested. We have an alpha users program where a dedicated set of product enthusiasts, they test your product for like a week, give you product-centric feedback. All of those people have day jobs in product-centric companies. So it's a very, for them, it's a new product. And for you, it's a dedicated answer to a few questions that you might have that you would want to beta test before you take it out in the world. Very happy to help you with that.
I actually came across that. I completely forgot to mention it. I came across that on your channel, but yeah, that's definitely something I'm going to take you up on.
Yeah, we are very, very fortunate to have a good networking circle, and a lot of people trust us with that. Finland did that. Zoho also got their canvas tested through us. Leher app did that. We were very, very fortunate to be in the position that we could help these companies. It helps immensely because otherwise you're just working on the work problem that you have at office. But it's on this platform gives everyone the opportunity to learn something new. And for the founders, for free, you're getting like what could have gone wrong. You would have discovered 6 months down the line after customers would have said. You could have just found out via the alpha users program. So that's our flagship program. We always make sure that we get like the best of companies and we get them the best of feedbacks. Awesome. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Thanks, Govind. If you have any questions, do let us know. Everyone, thank you for joining us on a great Sunday morning. Hope to see you soon. All the best. And
thank you.